Welcome everyone. So this is an overview of assignment 7063, email, memo, and letter, or what I will probably be referring to as the small business assignment. So as you can see, we're in our course Moodle page, and so I'm going to scroll down. So over here on the upcoming events, I see that 7063 is our third assignment that is due. So that's due Monday, June 18th, which is actually the first day of week 2. That means we'll probably need to work on that in week 1. So if I scroll down to week 1, I see it's clearly listed as, okay, we need to begin this assignment in week 1. But it is not due in week 1. Okay. So to figure out what assignment 7063 is, I'm going to go click on this link here, and that will open up the wiki page for the assignment prompt. So just to give you a quick idea of what I'll be covering, I'm going to have 4 installments on assignment 7063. The first one is what you're listening to right now, which is just an overview of the assignment. I'll have another video on the first step, how to pick your local business, and then a third video on developing your writing, and then a fourth video on the second part of the assignment, which is comparing different genres. So this is assignment 7063 titled Email, Memo, and Letter, and it is mostly about you talking about a small local business. Okay. So going back to our wiki page, let's find out more about assignment 7063. And as you can see, it begins with an email from your boss, Alex Nostrovia, just like all the other assignments do, basically giving you an order to do this assignment. Again, it covers basic formatting, the acceptable fonts, font size, and that the ink should be black. And again, this assignment should be single-spaced. Okay. So here are our learning objectives. At this point, you should have already started creating at least 1 or 2 memos, but this will expand on that. It also says that you should be working on superficially analyzing a place of business. So superficially means just not too deeply. So this is kind of an intro to a kind of research that you'll be using in later assignments that'll be worth a lot more for your grade. And how to better understand what is valued in a discourse community. So a discourse community, if you click on that, is just any community that has a shared language or shared practices. And so basically the discourse community in this project would be your town or city and what they value. Okay. So as you can see, here are the tasks laid out, pretty straightforward, and this is what I'm mainly going to focus on explaining in this video. The first thing you need to do is select a local place of business. And so this should be a business that is local to you wherever you are this summer, so that you can visit it physically. The whole point of this assignment is to be able to, as Alex says, stretch your legs and do some field work. So step 1, it's important that you pick a business that you can go and visit in person. Okay, and that will be what my next video is about, is how to do that, and some advice on how to do that. Okay, once you've selected a business, then you should draft a memo to your boss, and remember that your boss is Alex Nostrovia in this hypothetical situation. Okay, to learn more about memos, you can see my earlier videos, but this is basically what the heading of a memorandum should look like. So it has memo at the top, who you're addressing it to, your full name, okay, don't say Taylor, use your full name, today's date, whatever that day may be that you work on this, and have an RE line. So this is a response to a request, so it should say RE instead of subject, and then a subject line that would tell your reader, Alex, what this is about. Okay, so that's just the basic makeup of a memo format. And again, you're welcome to use one of Word's templates. They all look pretty much the same. Okay, so in this memo, you will need to perform primary and secondary research, and my third video will be about that. But basically, give you a quick idea. Primary research is data that you collect yourself, and secondary research is when someone else, another writer, is interpreting primary research. So primary research might be something like the menu of the local business, whereas secondary research would be a review of that business's food. Okay, so you should be drawing from both kinds of research for this assignment in order to tell your boss what the company's legal name is, um, what the ownership is. So is it owned by an individual? Is it locally owned and operated? Is it a franchise? So it does say local place of business. I would like for you to try to stay away from the really big chains, like Target or Walmart, um, just because anything that you might do on this small local business, a lot of that primary research has probably already been done, and I want you to do it yourself. So yeah, hear more about that in my other video. So just give me a rundown in B of what the company ownership is like and what you can find out about that. Where it's located. So if there are multiple locations, detail which specific location you're going to be focusing on. So for example, Espresso Royale in Champaign, Illinois has, I believe, 6 locations in Champaign-Urbana alone, and that's okay, that's a small chain still. And I would want to focus on one specific location for this project. Point D, the government under which this business operates. So you might expand on this point in terms of like how that affects regulations that they have to follow, and that sort of thing. Point E, primary source of revenue. So what do they sell? Give a rundown of what seems to be the primary goods that they sell. And then you can talk about the other things. So for example, Espresso Royale, their primary source of revenue is coffee and coffee style drinks. But they also sell sandwiches and soups, and those would be other types of goods and services. So give a rundown of what they sell, and you might even talk about the range of prices in here to give us a good idea, what their specialties are, what they're known for. Okay, item G, the primary consumer demographic. So who goes here the most? And this might be a really good thing to do primary research for later. So I'll talk about that later when we do our video and content. But you'll need to give a rundown of who seems to be the #1 most common customer, who seems to be the #2 most common customer, so on and so forth, to give us an idea of who shops here. And then H, the physical geographic location, so you would want to describe that and what the going concern for that location is. And it's like, I could maybe guess what this means, but I want to open that up and check out what that means. And if you go to this page, basically what it means is what the community around that business mostly is concerned about, or what that business would affect that business's ability to continue running and staying open. So this gives us an idea of why we're doing this assignment. So if the question is based off of the geographic location or physical location of this particular shop, what are they most worried about, or what do they need to worry about for keeping their business going, keeping it open, and keeping it healthy? And so item H will be really important for figuring out how much detail in these earlier points will be relevant and important to the purpose. Okay, so that's the first part of the assignment. So there are actually 2 major documents. And so the first one is just the memorandum about a small local business. The second part of this assignment is, again, draft a separate memo, again to your boss, so that's Alex, in which you explain the differences and similarities between emails, memos, and letters. Especially in response to these 4 items. So similarities and differences in how they are formatted so that they are routed to their intended recipients. So for example, if you look at the top of a memo, how does this design get this memorandum to its intended audience? How is it built to make sure that happens? And how does that work? Number two, how does it affect how this information or this document is filed? So for example, how a memo or a physical memo or a physical letter is stored may be very different to how an email is stored. So you'd want to talk about that, how the makeup of these genres changes how they are stored or filed for future reference. Number three, how they fulfill the functions of a title, etc. So I'd want to click on this link and it's like, well, what is the function of a title? And basically what this tells you is that a title is a very quick way of informing your reader of what kind of document it is, so it changes what their expectations are of how that document functions and what kind of information they'll find and where they can locate it, etc. What the practices are, what kind of content is expected. So, for example, memorandum has a title, and that title is memorandum. So when I see that a document is a memorandum, it carries certain expectations of what this means, how much gravity this is, or what content should be included, or what can I expect from it. And that will be similar as well as different from how emails and letters function. And so your job is to find out what expectations there are just based off of what the title looks like. Okay, and then the last part, and it's not numbered individually in here, but it's basically about how all of that affects the information that is expected and how we're supposed to interpret that information. So how the content of each of these genres may change because of its genre. So for example, an email we know ends with a sincerely, it ends with a closing, but a memo does not. Okay, so you can click these visual design and genre design pages to figure out things that you can talk about for those 4 topics. If it's helpful, I also have a very quick guide on emails versus memos versus letters, and it just kind of talks about the common uses and the different kinds. So there are many different kinds of memos actually, depending on their purpose, many kinds of letters depending on their purpose. And so this just gives you a rundown very briefly of their uses. And so you can check this out. But by no means does this actually cover all the content you need to cover. So this just kind of gives you an idea of how their audiences may differ, if they're used internally to a business or external to a business, if the format is electronic or not, if it begins with a salutation, if it has a subject line, so on and so forth. And if you scroll down a little bit more, this lists the different basic types of letters and memos. So there are informational letters, and there are informational memos, and there are memos of record, and memorandums of request, and so on and so forth. Okay, so all of those tools should be useful for you for figuring out how you want to analyze the different parts of memos, emails, and letters. And then, of course, you need to make sure that you revise this and make it more acceptable to these challenges, or sorry, these objectives here, so that basically I can get an idea of, would you know when to use a memo versus a letter versus an email? And would you have good reasons for that? Okay. Okay, so that basically covers the bulk of the assignment. As you see in item number 5, you also need a title page, okay? And so this is very simple. Once you've created your 2 memos, you should put both of those memos in the same MS Word document, okay? And before you scroll down to those assignments, there should be a title page. So let's pretend that this is my memo and to Alex about the local business, and it's followed by a memo about letters, emails, and memos. So I'm going to hit Insert Page Break, and I'm going to create a title page. And all of my title pages that I have you create for this class should have the same content, and you can design these in ways that you like. But the first thing up here should be the assignment title. And I want to make sure I get the correct assignment title. So, oops, wrong page. Here we go. The correct title is actually 7063 Email, Memo, and Letter. So I'm going to title it Email, Memo, and Letter, exactly as it appears on Moodle. And I'm going to write my name so that the person who grades this will know who to give credit for. And I want a date, so the date I completed it is 6/10/2018. And then I might also put down here that it's for BTW250 section on line 3. Okay, and then I can just design this however I like. I could leave this way if I want, make this bigger, put this, I don't know, smaller. And if I wanted, I can put this all the way at the bottom and over to the right so that it just adds some visual variety. Okay. So now I'm basically ready to submit my assignment. I will click Save and save it in one of my file folders. Double check that my submission does all the things it's supposed to, have a professional tone, display good understanding discourse conventions of a memo. That just basically means, does your memo look like a memo? Does it sound like a memo? Are you able to talk about the discourse conventions of letters, emails, and memos? And discourse conventions are just, because of the document, this is what people expect it to look like, sound like, and contain. Okay. Be whole and be submitted on time. So I want to make sure I submit that on time. And so if you need to go directly to the assignment and you don't know what week it's under, you can just click this right here. And that will take you to the submission page for that assignment. It's actually under week 2. So if you click on week 2, you'll see it's the first assignment because it's due on Monday of the second week. But either way, whichever one you click on, just remember that these little icons with the hand and a piece of paper in it, that's a submission link. And then scroll down, add submissions, navigate to the appropriate file, upload it, or you can drag it into this box right here. So your file should appear right here. And then make sure you click Save Changes or it will not send it to me. So just remember that you should be only uploading one file here with all of your documents in it. So it should be 3 pages. Your title page, your memo on a small local business, and your memo on letters, emails, and memos. So those are 3 different documents, but all in one file, one Word document file. Click Save Changes so it's sent to me, and I'm able to grade it. Okay, so that completes our overview of assignment 7063 on a small local business. Please see my next video to learn more about how to select a small business or a local business that will be good for this assignment. I hope this was helpful, and good luck.